Joining us now, she will be part of ACC Network studio coverage this weekend during the regionals, kind of breaking down how all the ACC teams are doing in the regionals. Of course, you see her all year long as a color analyst, does games with Florida State, both baseball and softball, and then also does UCF games with yours truly. She has her own podcast that I'll tell her promote in a moment. Of course, I speak of my good friend, two-time All-American Alex Powers, joining us here. How are you doing? I've missed you, first of all.
I know it. It's been a long time, I feel like, since we sat next to each other in the booth, but it's been good. So I can't complain. Just getting to watch and talk softball. So there's nothing better.
All right, now first, tell you do a weekly podcast with Britt McKinney. You've been doing
Yeah.
ACC podcast. Oh, year. Britt obviously will be doing College Station. Got paired up there, so it's a little hectic of a week for both of you. But
Yeah.
you are going to come out this week with a preview breaking down all the ACC teams in the regionals, correct?
Yeah, we will. We're actually recording later today, and then that should be out no later than tomorrow. So it's been a busy week, and we were even together all week last week out in Durham at the ACC championship, and still didn't have time to film because you're just always doing something, right? On set, preparing for the next game and show and everything else. But yeah, so our podcast has been a lot of fun, just getting to talk and cover ACC softball teams across the country all season long.
And you tell people where they can find it.
Yeah, you can find it streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's also on YouTube. It's called Up the Coast with Alex and Britt. And we just have a hell of a time. So it's good.
Yeah, you both are in Durham there. You watched, obviously, Duke win the ACC title against Florida State. We're going to begin with Tallahassee because I kind of feel like this should be like nicknamed the Alex Powers Regional because you've called both UCF and Florida State games. They're both in this regional. FSU is the national seed, the 15th seed. Auburn's the 2 seed. FSU's the 3 seed. Chattanooga is the 4 seed. The top three, this is basically a replay of the 2021 regional. It's the third time UCF has been to Tallahassee in the last 4 years, fourth time in a row. They were there the first time 9 years ago when you were a part of that. What was your reaction when you saw this regional pairing?
Not surprised. And thank you for making me feel really old. 9 years ago feels like just ages and ages. But, I feel like it's pretty common for FSU to get some SEC team in there. And normally it's either an Auburn or it's a South Carolina. And then, of course, our in-state friendly foes with either UCF or USF. So, again, I'm definitely not surprised, but I think it's a tough regional. I think it's hard because Auburn, of course, comes in with a lot of SEC, experience all season long. They're just playing really hard talent. And then, of course, UCF. UCF has been a great team the last several years, especially with what Coach Ball Malone has been able to do there. And you look at it from even a different lens this season, and them playing in the Big 12 is making them that much better because talk about phenomenal play and phenomenal competition the last 4 or 5 months. I mean, nobody's, I feel like, prepped and primed better in that regional than UCF.
It's unique in a way because normally in the past, when we talk about these regionals, Florida State's pitching usually stands out. But it feels like, Alex, this year there's been more questions about Florida State's pitching. And some might say that Auburn and UCF maybe has an edge there with Maddie Penta, of course, with Auburn and Shelby Lowe and those Tiger staffs. Of course, Sarah Willis leading the night staff. How do you respond to that? How do you feel about the Knowles pitching staff, having just seen them in Durham?
I think that Florida State has continued to find ways to win all season long with pitching, maybe not being as strong as it has been in years past. And credit Lonnie Alameda a lot for that and her being able to just continue to be a student of the game and strategize phenomenally to capitalize on what she has in the circle. But Florida State's success this year has definitely been their offense. And so looking at the regional, I think the person and the team that's going to come out on top is going to be the squad that's hitting the most. And I say that just because you look at pitching and depth is maybe not, pound for pound, 1 through 4 on every team. I do think UCF is coming into the regional again with the best pitching staff. And what I mean by that is most dominant with Sarah Willis leading the way. And then several really viable arms that they can go to as well. Again, Florida State's success has come from the strategy. And then, like you mentioned, Auburn with Maddie Pinta, and she's been great this season. And then, of course, throwing there in Chattanooga, you never know what they're going to bring to the table, right? On any given Sunday, a team can come in and upset somebody else. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, Chattanooga, not a pushover, is a 4 seed.
Right.
That's actually one of the better 4 seeds in this tournament,
Right.
winning the SoCon Conference Championship. All right, let's kind of give me a couple of players to watch that
Mhm.
you're in this regional for Florida State, for UCF, or even Auburn. Anybody that you think will be key in this regional?
Yeah, I'll start with Florida State. And of course, Jason Beecham has been great all season long. She's top 10 finalist for National Freshman of the Year. She was the ACC Freshman of the Year, has the hottest bat. Kaylee Harding is another hitter that is just, I call her Clutch Kaylee all the time because she's just so good and comes through in the big moments. Michaela Enfield getting back in stride as well, coming off of her injury and surgery that she had. So she's been swinging it well. For UCF, I think that Sarah Willis has just been lights out, right? She is just so good in the circle, so dominant. And I do feel like the rest of the team really feeds off of her energy. Jada Cody is a UCF, career type of player, has set several records alongside, of course, Stephanie Best. And Jada Cody and her body of work is always a threat, no matter the day, no matter the game. And then some other really good leadership, though, I do think for UCF, you have Shannon Doherty, you have Jazz Williams, a lot of people that have a lot of experience and trying to bring the young ones with them. And again, UCF is a team that has played great competition all season long. I think Auburn, they're historically a great team. In years past, especially when I was playing, it was their offense that led the way. Offensive numbers are down a little bit this year, less power, less consistency. I think they're hitting about 250 as a team right now. And, in years past, they were hitting over 300 and some really big swingers there. But Maddie Penta has been doing great for Auburn, and I think she's been able to really lead them through a lot of these ball games. And then again, Chattanooga, you just never know what you're going to get. So I feel like there's a couple of key players from their team that could come through at any given moment. And like you said, the game doesn't know. So it's going to be good.
A core of this UCF team has won a regional back in 2022.
Yeah.
They've been to Tallahassee, like I said, third time in 4 years. In fact, this senior class, the 4-year seniors, their first regional was Tallahassee in 21 when they lost in the regional final to FSU. Can that be an advantage for a team like UCF to have that experience, having know what it takes to win a regional? Because in past years, like in 2015, when you won the region, I thought you had the advantage from an experience standpoint of, hey, we've won a regional. UCF at that time had not. Do you think that helps UCF in this regional?
I think experience is so much of a factor of a team's success. And so often when you look at different parts of a team's season, in the past, like you're talking regional right now, in the past at Florida State, it was like World Series. And when I say that, it was like we knew we had to just get to the World Series before we could get to the World Series and compete at the World Series. Like the first step was getting there, right? Which is hard enough to do. And then once you get there, once you've gotten there and gathered and had that experience as to what it's like to play on that stage, it's a whole new ball game. And so absolutely, I think teams like UCF and I think teams like Florida State that have the experience, have the maturity out there on the field, it makes all the difference. Now, what I will say is I look back on my career in 2017, we were the favorite to win in the super regional against LSU, and we were upset. And I felt like we were the better team. I felt like we had more experience. I felt like we did everything right. But at the end of the day, we didn't play the game better that day and that weekend. And that came back to haunt us. And so no matter the experience and honestly, no matter the career that any of these teams have had with these players, it's all going to be about who shows up Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday and is going to play the best.
For Auburn, it's unique. Mickey Dean, it was announced during the season, he is going to step down as the Auburn head coach at the end of this season. So that this is his last regional as Auburn head coach. How much of that do you think would be motivational for the players to kind of go on a run for their coach who will be done whenever this postseason run is done for Auburn?
I think that's so important. And you get these athletes that really rally behind coaches sometimes, and they've bought into the program. They're so grateful for what they've experienced throughout their careers. And we have felt as athletes like we owe it to our coaching staff or a particular coach to come through for them and let them know that all the time and money and energy and hard work that they invested in us was worth it. And so I think that that's going to play a huge factor for Auburn coming out. And I truly think for once with the SEC slogan, it will just mean a little bit more for them.
Oh, very clever. Look at you. Got the
I
cliches
know, I'm wearing
going.
my ACC shirt.
That's
So
good. ACC there.
I'm neutral. Yeah.
Fair enough. Right. Talk about a little bit more about the FSU pitching staff this year. For those that haven't followed it daily, what has been the story there, and who's the key pit arm or two that you think is going to be key if Florida State's going to make a deep run and get past this regional and beyond?
Florida State, the last several years, has done a great job pitching by committee. Even when they had really dominant arms in the circle, like a Kat Sandercock, I think Lonnie Alameda did a great job preserving her so that she could be her best at the latest parts in the season when it matters most, which is postseason. And I think one of the things that Florida State has lacked this year is that go-to, more dominant type of ace. And that's where they've struggled. And so you have really great potential in the circle for Florida State with McKenna Reed, Allison Royalty. You've got some really young, phenomenal players, Ashton Danley. You've got Mimi Gooden and several other arms. Emma Wilson has done a great job getting some innings. But again, they lack experience on some side. So with Danley and Gooden, they've got so much potential, but they're so young. They're only freshmen, both of them true freshmen, two-way players as well. So trying to navigate it and balance a lot is hard. And then you've got, Allison Royalty. I think she struggled with a little bit of injury throughout the season. And she's been somebody, again, that has had a harder time as of late because of probably just over time wear and tear. And she's been doing a great job, though, navigating and managing that. And then I think the question still is McKenna Reed. And she was like the flamethrower, if you want to call her that, for Florida State. And she's not played since April 20th or 21st. And I mean, that's a big loss for Florida State. They're taking it day by day with her right now, but not knowing whether or not she's going to be available is huge.
And they're going to get tested right away. This Chattanooga team won 42 games this year, hit 304 as a team, 52 home runs, with Kylie Phillips leading the way with 15 home runs, 40 RBIs, 357 average. Kendall Forsythe, 340 average, 7 homers, 44 RBIs on the season. It's a team that can rake, and they have a lot of arms, which is unusual for a 4 seed, but they've gotten 5 pitchers that have made at least 17 appearances this season. Taylor Long leads the way for them with 12 wins. Peja Gould, I believe, if I pronounce it correctly, with 12 wins as well. Their pitching staff is at 281 overall. I mean, it's unusual, Alex, to have a 4 seed that has depth pitching-wise that can have multiple arms like this Chattanooga team do with some pop offensively here.
We talk so much potential, right? And Chattanooga's coming in off of a great conference tournament win and championship with them. And again, you just never know. You never know what you're going to get. It doesn't matter who's ranked better, who has a better team player for player. It just matters who's going to show up and do the small things right and come through in the big moments. And I think that's what we continually see. The game and the talent across the country is just evening out. And it's hard. It's hard to be a Florida State coming in. I mean, it's great to be the host, right? But the target's on your back. And you look at a team like Chattanooga, they're probably walking in here and saying, I've got nothing to lose. Like, we're good, right? We're happy to be here. And sometimes that's a really dangerous opponent because they don't feel pressure the same. They don't feel like the target's on their back because, again, on the field, Florida State's expected to win. And so when you don't have that pressure, you get to play a little bit more free.
No doubt, and they know how to win. Frank Reed's been there a long time at Tennessee Chattanooga, 42 wins there. As a player, how do you prepare for a regional? How much of it is physical? How much of it is mental as you prepare?
So much of it is mental at this point in the season. The physical ability that you have what you have, right? You are the player that you are. You're not going to be different this week as opposed to this weekend or last weekend, next week. You're not going to change. Of course, you can try to fine tune. And if you're feeling good in the box, if you're seeing the ball really well as a hitter, you want to keep hitting, right? If you maybe struggled in your conference tournament last week, maybe you're taking a couple of days off, and that's just the physical side. But so much of what's about to transpire this upcoming weekend is going to be mental. It's going to be keeping your preparation the same. It's going to be managing and controlling your emotions and the excitement and the butterflies and the nervousness, because it's all going to happen. It's all going to come up on game day. But how can I play through those emotions very similarly and consistently to how I played throughout the rest of the season? Because essentially right now, nothing changes. It just means a little bit more because my season's on the line.
Should be a fun regional. I think it might be the best regional on paper, right there with Stillwater and Los Angeles, which we'll get to in a little bit here. As far as it should be a lot of fun. It'll get going Friday. Let's move to a place you just came from, Durham, where Duke is hosting. They're not a top 8 seed. They're the 10th seed. They will host South Carolina, who's the 2 seed. Utah, who got on fire in the Pac-12, made a run to the Pac-12 final. They're a 3 seed, and then, of course, Morgan State is the 4 seed. Real quick, Duke not a top 8 seed. As a player, do you think that motivates you? Do you feel just maybe, hey, we should have been a top 8? Does that add fuel if you're a Duke player?
I think so. You know what, I have so many opinions about this with Duke and their seeding, and I understand what's being said about the significant wins, the out of conference wins, and everything else. I just think that there's a lot that could probably be improved upon just in general with some of these, even if it's just rankings and let alone the seedings and stuff, like just more transparency and similarities between them all so that they better align. But yeah, I think Duke right now, if I was them, I would have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I would feel a little slighted into, hey, this is our body of work. We performed and we did it on the field. Our record says so, our stats say so, like the numbers, the games speak for themselves. And that's what I would feel like if I were Duke. However, I do feel like it could work to their advantage being on the road and being a little pissed off. I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, is what I hope to see. And I hope that they see this as a challenge and an opportunity to prove themselves, and not that they have to go out there proving themselves. And I don't want them to play any different, but I do want them to take that as a little bit of a blow to your gut, and to say, dang, like we deserved better than this. And so not changing their game, sticking to who they are, and allowing their game to kind of just do the output that they've been used to all season.
They've got a tricky regional. You got South Carolina, who you and I have seen in person. Elena Vodder has won on that field. She won a super regional there when she helped lead Stanford to the World Series. And then Utah has players on that roster that have been to the World Series. That's a stacked regional for Duke there, is it not?
I completely agree. And you're coming off of a Utah that's hot. Like they played well in their conference tournament, and I would never really want to choose to see the Utes at this point in the season because, again, they're well coached and they have come in and really upset some people, and they play good softball. They play good softball in the postseason, again, which is scary. And so I do feel like, maybe selfishly, because I am, somewhat affiliated with the ACC, like I think Duke's regional is pretty dang tough. And South Carolina, like you said, a force to be reckoned with as well. They have all season long the SEC play and experience, and then you've got a great pitcher with Vodder and the success that she's had all year. And then again, you've got Utah, who's feeling really good. Again, Morgan State, you never know what you're going to get with that 4 seed and what they're going to come in and do and just try to wreck people's day. So that's going to be a tough one.
I really am, especially with Vodder, that factor. They're possibly trying to take out Duke again for a second year in a row. We'll see how that one plays out. Clemson is in Tuscaloosa. They will open against Southeast Louisiana. Alabama is the 14 national seed. They'll take on USC Upstate. Your thoughts on the Tigers? Some people think they underperform this year. Valerie Cagle, possibly against Caleb Beaver of Alabama, potentially in a regional final there. What's your thoughts on the Clemson Tigers in Tuscaloosa?
So hope, Clemson had not done as great as I probably would have expected all season long. However, the Clemson that I saw in Durham last week was a completely different Clemson than I saw 3 months before that and leading up to that. They were playing looser. They were playing more competitively. They were playing just more fun. They were having more fun out there on the field. And when I have a team that I'm watching and I see that they don't have fear in their eyes and they're rising to the occasion and they're loving each other up, even through, difficulty throughout the game. If you're getting out, but you're hitting balls hard, they're super encouraging. That is also a dangerous team to me. And so when I looked at Clemson and their body of work since February, it wasn't indicative of the Clemson that I saw at the ACC tournament. And that excited me as an ACC alum and somebody that's, talking so frequently on the conference, because you want to see the team succeed. And so, yeah, Valerie Cagle's had a down year, but she's had pitchers around her that have surrounded her and really picked her up. Millie Thompson's been great, as have other arms in the circle for Clemson. And so if I'm them, Mackenzie Clark, she is just an absolute spark plug for that Tiger offense, for their defense too. She plays center field and just goes all out all the time. they're going to be tough. And I really hope that they go in there and compete against Alabama because they could walk away pretty happy with the results.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Alabama's been inconsistent offensively, and you're saying so you feel they've turned a corner. You saw them turn a corner in
Yes,
Durham. Wow, that's big news.
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about Virginia Tech going out west. A place they're actually somewhat familiar with. There's some history there with them playing in UCLA in the Super Regionals. Pete DeMore and the Hokies will be out there out west. As I mentioned, they'll play San Diego State, who won the regional last year with Stacy Newman and company's the head coach. You got Grand Canyon, UCLA as the rematch, of course, from last year when Grand Canyon upset UCLA and shook the whole Los Angeles regional around. What's your reaction to this regional, especially with the Hokies opening up against San Diego State?
That's going to be a tough one. Virginia Tech, number 2 in the country in home runs. I mean, they flat out swing it. They're consistent in the box. They've got a great average, just shy of 350 as well as a team, which is really impressive. Their home runs, I mean, over 110 home runs. I think they're at like 112 or so throughout the year. And I mean, like I said, they just flat out swing it. UCLA plays like a really small field. I had remember vivid memories of just stepping out there and being like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm playing on a field that's 150 feet. And it's because, the fence is a little bit shorter and just everything kind of feels like it's on top of you. And so I hope and think that that could play to the favor of Virginia Tech. However, we'll see. UCLA is a great team. I mean, they know how to win on the biggest stages. They've done it the most, and they are continually a viable threat no matter who's on their team, no matter what their season has looked like, because of that experience, as well as currently how much talent they have on the field. They're just so good. And then San Diego State, you already said it, Stacy Newman, like one of the best of all time, right? Playing wise, as well as now coaching and really making an impact on a school that has seen significant strides and success, and then continues to surround herself with phenomenal coaches too. And you've got Delaney Wiz on staff and so many people that have been there, done that. And again, she's going back to her alma mater with UCLA. And I love kind of just the respect of the homage and how close the softball world is. And then Grand Canyon, of course, just comes in and can absolutely wreck people's day because, they upset UCLA last year. So you just never know.
It's a talented team that honestly you could make an argument should be a 3 seed, but because of the 400-mile geography are pushed to being a 4 in LA. But that's a team that's got talent. It's well coached. One of them, Sid Sherrill's done a heck of a job there on that staff, alongside Meredith Gorsuch, who's the pitching coach. I'm intrigued to see how UCLA psychologically gets ready for that game because Grand Canyon's going to come in with the confidence. UCLA's got Terry and Tinsley. That regional's going to be exciting. I can't wait.
That one's going to be tough. And selfishly, just because I'm a hitter, right? Like, I hope it's just a slugfest that weekend. And I hope every pitcher throws great. But like I said, I'm a hitter at heart, and I am really excited for that regional.
Lastly, Virginia making their first NCAA tournament since I believe 2010. They're out to Knoxville. Tennessee's the national seed, the number 3 national seed. They're super talented. But Virginia in the field, they're opening against Miami of Ohio, and they're sluggers. You're a hitter at heart. Well, this is the team for you, Alex. Here with Miami of Ohio. Here with Carly Spade, who's a top 10 finalist, and then you got Dayton as the 4. Your reaction to this regional?
It's crazy. I look at what Miami of Ohio has done, and I was actually just looking at their stats like two days ago, maybe. And I think they have potentially 3 hitters with like either 19 or 20 or more home runs. Like, it's ridiculous, but as a team, they're just ridiculous the last couple of years. I think what they've been able to do is so incredible. And then I look at a Virginia team, and I'm so proud of Virginia and the evolution and progress of Virginia, because Joanna Harden, who is the head coach there, has just done a great job sticking to the process and just committing to trying to bring a program back on the map that had not even made postseason in over a decade. And the evolution of the talent that has been coming through the Virginia program is one of the things that I love most. They're going to have really good arms in the circle as of late. And then their pitchers have just been doing great. And they've got some people in the box, offensive wise, that can swing it, but it's not always going to be the huge power numbers that they're going to put through. It's going to be the situational hitting opportunities and execution of just putting the ball in play where it needs to go. If it's a backside hit or a ball on the ground or a sac fly opportunity, they've done a great job putting it together. and securing some wins in that way. So I just want to see Virginia continue to stay true to their identity and what has gotten them to this point and been their successful purpose so far this season, and stick to that and not try to do anything different.
How do they overcome the mentality of, hey, this is awesome. We're excited to be here. I'm glad to be here versus, hey, let's try to win a regional. Because sometimes that happens when you're there for the first time.
Yeah, I do think that the competitive nature, like just spirit inside of us as athletes, and especially Division I athletes, um, it's so hard to describe how you get that level of like, no, 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 I'm glad I'm here, but I want to win, because it's just innate. And I do feel like for so many people, you can, right? Then you look at the grand scheme of all Division I athletes, like let's just use softball. There's different tiers. Like you've got some that are less competitive, you've got some that are moderate, and then you've got some that are so competitive that they will do anything in the world not to lose, right? Like extreme. And so I do think that all athletes kind of fall on that spectrum. And so somewhere in your heart, you know that you're a dog and you worked hard to get to this point and you deserve to be there, but you can still have a lot of gratitude and appreciation for being on that stage. So I also know that Coach Harden is super competitive. And so I think that her channeling that herself out there as the leader of the team is what's going to help the rest of the girls feel a little bit more confident too.
It's going to be fascinating because that matchup, a lot of talk about Miami of Ohio. You don't hear that often. Not as much talk on Virginia. We'll see if that's a chip on Virginia's shoulder. Interesting to see there. Of course, Tennessee, the favorites with Pickens and Godshaw. Pickens, oh boy, throwing in the mid-70s.
Gas.
That's going to be stacked. But that's all part of all the regionals that, of course, Alex Powers will be breaking down this week on ACC Network on the studio shows, various studio shows there. Tell the audience what you got in store this week, because I know you've got a busy week, and feel free to promote away.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah, so I'll be on or in Bristol at the ESPN campus, on campus there, and I'll have shows. All ACC shows will be aired on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night following the conclusion of the games that are airing on the ACC network. And basically what I'll be doing all day long is watching college softball across the country, but specifically the regionals where the ACC teams are at, and recapping kind of just the happenings that occur throughout the days, the wins, the losses, the key plays and significant moments for each program. So we've got 5 ACC teams in the running right now, and that's what we'll be talking about on All ACC on the ACC network each night this weekend.
I'll be having you on my computer from probably at a hotel in Tallahassee as I find photos of you from playing days there, and I'll be just posting them all social media and tagging you on it, just as you've been warned, Alex.
Send me everything.
Alex, this have fun out there. You'll knock it out as you always do in the studio. It's great to catch up with you. Always love working with you this year. We had a great year. Have fun over there. Send my best to Britt when you do the pod as well. She's busy herself. And thanks for coming on here on In the Circle on D1 Softball.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me. And this season was so much fun. I'm so grateful that we got the chance to work with each other as much as we did and just talk softball, because there's nothing better.